Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Outskirts Overland. Um, Thanks for being here. I appreciate y'all for being here, listening, watching, in whatever capacity in which you're taking this in. This week I'm just gonna go over 4th of July and just summer in general. Marvin's here. If you guys are watching, you might even hear him on the mic. Marvin's right here. Just he's like he wants to be on TV. I think we watch enough YouTube with dogs that he's like, I want to be on. I want to be on, Dad. So, anyways, Marvin's joining me today. I'm going to talk about the 4th of July, but before I do that, I want to let you guys know if you guys want to use OnX Off Road, it's what I use primarily. They have offline maps, trails are already there. You don't have to upload them, although you can track new trails and save them, color coordinate them, and put waypoints for camp spots. You can color coordinate those as well. And you can get 20% off of OnX Off Road with the code Global Overland 236, all one word. And if you're a Toyota fan and you're in the Midwest, Toyota Trucks of Arkansas is a great group. I would highly recommend joining it. If you're a Toyota enthusiast and anywhere even remotely close to the Ozarks. So that's all I got for housekeeping. So this week, I just want to talk about, hey, it's the 4th of July. It's a holiday. For me, that means a longer weekend. I don't know what that means for everyone, but since the 4th is a Thursday, that Friday's kind of what I would call a dead day. So it's a good day to go camping, get some extra camping in. You get an extra day of the weekend. If you're not a fireworks person, you get 2 extra days. You get a 4-day weekend. Fortunately and unfortunately, I am a fireworks person, and I have a plan with my family, and we're gonna set off some fireworks. And I don't know if we're doing a shrimp boil or a crawfish boil, whatever, one or the other. We're doing something, but yeah, whatever. Make sure you guys are paying attention to fire bans and stuff if you're out in the woods and you're doing fireworks, because obvious reasons. This is turning into the whole podcast stream has turned into quite the international. I don't know what you call it, international. I don't know. There's people all over the world that listen to this podcast, so I don't want to talk just too much about just Independence Day. I am a very, very, very patriotic human being. I do shoot off fireworks. I do love our country. Obviously, I served our country in Iraq and Afghanistan, both. So very patriotic. But there is a lot of people got to take into account. There's other people from other places, and they've got different holidays, and I appreciate them being here too. So with summer being here, it's hot. It's really humid where I'm at. So I've been trying to camp a lot by the water so I can kind of get in to cool off. That's been pretty necessary. I've also noticed that just watching my truck has kind of been a bigger deal when you're going slow and stuff, watching my temps and stuff, making sure that everything is staying, blowing out my air filter when I get to camp, trying to keep everything to where it can breathe cool air the easiest has been a big deal. Right now my tire, when you go on the roads and your tires get real hot, they end up having more air pressure in them. But anyways, this week, what I'm really going to talk about, happy 4th of July. America's great. Love the place, obviously. What I was going to talk today about is some things that I don't think I've particularly touched on, that I'm working on right now. And the first thing is setting up the interior. Setting up the interior of your truck. I've got a lot of stuff going on in my truck, so don't get me wrong. I'm not just mounting a phone. Like, that could be done. When I bought my truck, it had a rail system, but every time I'm off road, because the phones come out from the rail system, it's on a piece of trim and it like wiggles, and it annoys me to no end. I've tried everything from putting foam behind it to double-sided tape, and I've just come to the conclusion I'm gonna have I'm either gonna have to find a way to get it fixed to where I can like unscrew it to pull the trim or whatever. But I've got a radio. I've got the radio mic. I've got a Zoleo, which is satellite communicator. I've got a phone, and now I've got an iPad. I've got a Scan Gauge 2 as well on the other side. So I got a lot of stuff that I'm trying to fit and not cover my radio completely, but not also cover my point of view completely. My windshield, but I also need to be able to access it. It's a deal, man, and it is trial and error. This is just like everything else. Like, this is not something I have found a solution where it's just like, oh, this is gonna work. This works. That's gonna work. Great. I have not had that be the case whatsoever. Here, I'm gonna put the chat over top of us here so I can just, if anybody comments, I can see it. Um, so anyways, I am having a heck of a time getting my interior set up. And it's hard too because you want to kind of like set it up. You don't want to just be drilling into stuff. Like the example I used today when I was talking to my friend about it, because I've been it's, when you get on, well, at least when I do, when I start to like obsess about stuff. So I'm like, I gotta figure this out like yesterday. And I've been thinking about it all week. And I'm like, I just don't want to drill a bunch of holes. I don't want to be the guy that's like drilling holes to hang a picture to see if I like it. Next thing you know, my living room's just full of holes. Well, that could easily be the dash of my truck. So I don't want to do that at all. Not even close. And Andrew just said the bulletproof mounting system. I have something extremely similar to that actually right now. Um, so that's, and it's no longer. So, oh, I did take it off. There we go. And it's no longer. And he said he runs it on his Ford Expedition. And again, I'm not I'm not talking poorly about any, but like I off road like pretty aggressively for most. On the street, my mounting system's fine. But if I hit a big corrugated road and I'm going, and maybe some of you guys don't understand this, but when you're in a corrugated road, you almost want to go a little faster so you can float on the top of the, quote unquote, if you're not familiar with corrugations, they're like whoops. Like if you ever been on a gravel road and like somebody with a trailer's been on it and spun their tires a bunch, that's corrugations. So you want to like float on the top. So you're constantly doing this, and that mount with the phones hanging out from it on that piece of trim, it just vibrates it and it squeaks actually. I've covered the clips with um like gorilla tape to try and quiet them if it was the clips. I put foam behind it. I've put sound deadening in it to maybe make, trying to just make it heavier so it doesn't rattle so bad. And I have something. I have the 67 Designs one, but it's, I mean, 67 Designs, Expedition Essentials, Ram Mount, Bullet Point. They're all the same thing for the Tacoma. At least they screw in that same spot on the dash, and when you're putting stuff on it, and you want it to be accessible to you, so I have it out just slightly. I mean, I have short arms, but it just rattles wild. So, and I don't like stuff being on my windshield particularly. Yeah, I'm just having that time with it. So I just got to figure that out. I wish it was as easy. Like Jeeps and Broncos now, they have like that cutout square like in front of the dash. That's for mounting stuff. And that might be the Expedition too. I don't know. My F-150, when I had an F-150, had that as well. The Tacoma doesn't have that. That would be awesome. And ultimately I may end up just screwing into the dash, drilling some holes and doing it that way. But I don't, that's not my first choice. But whatever works. I mean, this truck's so cut up everywhere else. It's not, why not? Um, but yeah, so the interior's been a real deal. Like in this iPad I got, it's a 10 inch. So it's rather large. And I think I'm going to put it kind of down near the passenger seat and kind of like up here for me, like, but coming up from below, like on the side trim of like this, the footwell closest to me of the passenger seat. I think I'm going to mount that there. But now I got to worry about the iPad with my radio mount. And again, this seems ridiculous to you guys, but like I got to watch my temps Scan Gauge. I got to be able to communicate and send, let people that are in town know I'm safe, or if I need help, Zoleo. Cell phone, obvious. iPad navigation, it's all offline maps. Radio communication with repeaters for a service or the people I'm with or other people around. Like these aren't like I'm not setting up multiple screens to play Halo here. Like I dated myself with that COD, play Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, whatever. So this all exists, but this truck is not that big, and I'm just finding it to be, you don't want anything in the way of your hands at all, or you'll be smoking stuff going off road. It's just been a deal. Setting up an interior is a tough, tough, tough deal, and this is a daily driven vehicle, so I also am like, gosh, I don't know. Like, is that, yeah, Boondock Haverlock, Halo, huh? Yeah, well, I mean, that's just what comes to mind, multiplayer, in my head. But it's just like, dude, it, I, it's a deal. Like, I've pretty well got the truck, sorted. I have all the pieces, so I'm not like complaining per se. Having all this stuff and figuring out where I can put it is a good problem. I don't have any bad problems. Like nothing's broke. I have good problems. These are all good problems. But just I got to figure it out. So there'll probably be some follow-on pictures of that on my Instagram once I do get it figured out. But as for now, I mean, I'll be working on it after this podcast today. So I'm going camping again this weekend. That's always a thing too. I'm just gonna switch directions here. That's always a thing too. Like everybody's like, "Oh, I'm gonna work on my truck this weekend." Well, I'm camping on the weekend, so working on my truck again. I've said it in earlier podcasts, but I know everybody, as much as I'd like you guys to, hasn't listened to every podcast. And again, I encourage you to go back and listen. But it just turns into lost sleep. Like I got to just get up early or do it late. So if it's loud, I tend to do it late. More than early. For some reason, I feel like people don't mind being kept up a little later as much as they like getting woken up real early. So and it depends on what it is too, if it's loud or not. But really that's what I do. And I live in the country, so there's no ordinances. I just don't want to, I don't want my neighbors to hate me. So I'm not out there with like a freaking grinder at 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning, but I might be out there with a grinder till 9-10, which is, I think, it's not ideal, but more reasonable. Anyway, so I got to do it during the week because I'm traveling. I'm 5 hours from anywhere. Like I'm driving somewhere, no matter where it is, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Colorado's 10 hours to Colorado Springs, like 13. I mean, 20 hours to New Mexico, Great Sand Dunes, 18. I've never been to Galveston, but you can go. There's some overlanding down there. Like it's all a drive. So I've got the week to get my truck ready and fix anything that I've either found to be a problem or an addition I've added to make my life a little easier. Which that I'm getting to the nitty gritty of that. Like I'm getting that figured out. So that's ultimately all I will be doing during the week is fixing things, hopefully. And something always happens. So that's a given. I just changed all my brakes on my truck. I smoked my brakes. Like that's just stuff happens. Like there's just wear parts, and naturally you put a new part on and then another, like you're never going to have it all done. It's not like laundry where I can do the whole house's laundry, just take a day and it's all done now, like everything's new. I can't afford to do that. Don't have time to do that. So I'm constantly chasing some type of gremlin exists, whether it's bolts backing out, tire issues, any number of things it could be. It's just a real pain, man. Honestly. And and again, it's just part of the hobby, and I love the hobby and I love working on the truck. But anyways, back to my point, I'm spending the whole week preparing to go on the weekend. So that's making sure I've got my list sorted out, my to-do list sorted out, like, and getting my pickup. Like I always do pickup. I don't like to socialize going shopping, so I avoid the opportunity. So I almost do everything pickup that I can. So like Bass Pro carries the freeze dried meals I want. So I'll order 3 or 4 of those, pick them up. I'll get, if I need some type of specific cord or something. Like I just got a new power bank, like a little one, because I have a huge one, like a bigger external power bank, and then obviously my dual battery. But I have a big one, and I was like, I want a little smaller one, but it's only USB C. But my lights in my tent are regular USB, so I had to get like just a little adapter. Like there's just stuff like that, kind of all the time where your new stuff and your old stuff don't merge either, even with some of it. And you gotta overcome those obstacles as well. And so I'm always messing with that stuff during the week. And then the weekend comes and you go through your checklist. Well, I mean, before the weekend comes. So Thursday, this week, Wednesday, 4th of July is when I'll sort my list. But ultimately, I have to have it all done by tomorrow. Most things are closed on the 4th of July. Well, maybe not most things, but some things are going to be closed on 4th of July for the holiday. And I'm gone Friday. I think I'm leaving Thursday night. So, and driving in the night and I got some camp spots mapped and I could sleep in. I'm camping. I'm not on a schedule. It's not like I don't got to be somewhere anytime. So I might show up at 2 a.m. and just sleep in. But it's always figuring something out during the week to camp on the weekend, and you don't have the time. But the time that I have the time, I want to be out. So that's a constant. That is something you have to be very intentional with, is making sure you're on top of your stuff so you're not on a trip. Like I just did my brakes. My brakes were needed changed. I could probably have went on another trip with my brakes, but it would have been way less than ideal. Like I mean way less than ideal. They were done. They were real done. And doing a lot of water crossings and stuff, that's going to happen with the temperature fluctuations and stuff. They're just going to wear out faster. But I got to be on top of it to make sure that I'm not only being on top of it just because it matters to me so much. I'm trying to be on top of it so that it doesn't, so I can enjoy like I'm always trying to find the best way to enjoy the activity. Like that's why I recently finally, I mean, guys, realistically, I should have had an iPad for navigating by now and had this interior sorted out. But I hung on as long as I could hang on using my phone. And for those of you that do navigation a lot, everybody's got CarPlay, okay? When you're using offline maps, though, CarPlay isn't a whole lot of good for you. You can't zoom in and zoom out, at least on my truck, and it's relatively new. So, like, it's useless to me. Like, CarPlay is not worth, and I have Onyx on CarPlay. Everybody has Onyx on CarPlay. It still has some functionality, but like just the fact that I can do an offline map, or I can even screenshot something off Google Earth and save it and blow it up and stuff. Like that's worth everything, because more times than not, again, this is me, not you. I'm not going to a campground. So I'm essentially finding a trail that's more or less not marked. Forest Service may have it marked, with dotted gray lines. I'm going to see if that exists first, going down it. And then I'm essentially using the map system to look for openings in trees or trails so I can camp in those spots, off away from the trail, the road, whatever. And these are not like marked. Like you can't Google the places. Like I'm finding grids and waypointing them. They're not like they don't have names. They don't have, like, they're not searchable unless you just search the grid. And I'm like, here's the 10 digit. Like that's where I was. And you can figure it out that way. But all I'm ever doing is trying to, again, that's what I want to be spending my time doing on my trip, is finding camp, enjoying camp, exploring, not worrying about things fixing, worrying about what I didn't have, worrying about what I forgot, not realizing I forgot something until it's ruined the trip. So I spend that's a lot of time. And I was actually I just sold my rooftop tent. I just sold my rooftop tent to a guy who's just starting in overlanding. And naturally, I helped him put his tent on. He's got a rack, and that was great. And him and his wife, I'm pretty sure it's his wife. If it's not his wife, I probably could say right now it's going to be his wife. Like they got Tacoma. They're starting to get into it. And like my dad was like probably overwhelming this guy. Like he puts a lot of work into this. Like it's not like get a truck and go. Like you got to be checking things, fluids. Like I've got a checklist. Like I've got a pre-chip trip checklist of stuff. whether that's making sure this is charged and I have it, because the moment I take it out of the truck, I got to write it down because it may not make it back in the truck. So that's extremely important. Again, everything I have is like orange or lime green or yellow. So if it's in the house, also it's harder to forget because it sticks out like a sore thumb. Like, I'm not camping with camouflage stuff because then I'm losing it. Even in my house, like even if it's green and tan and black, like I have a lot of stuff in my house that's you could really lose it that way. When it's lime green and orange and yellow, like it's harder. I mean, even this carabiner right here, like orange, like everything I have, ridiculously bright, so I don't lose it. So that's a lot. That's a lot of what goes into my week leading up to going out is, what I took out, make sure it goes back in. What I look at, thinking about what I need early. Like I'm talking, if I'm going out on a Friday, Thursday or Friday, I need to be thinking Wednesday what I need. And I am constantly doing pickup. You're talking Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday because I don't remember everything Monday. And then I remember that I forgot something Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, I'm starting to pack the truck and I'm like, oh, dang, I forgot. So like it does take some dedication. Like if you're doing this regularly, and that also helps you weed out stuff too, though. So you got to think about that. Boondock Haverlock just said, I never thought about a tablet. And yeah, the big thing with the tablet is you got to get one that has cellular and Wi-Fi so that it has GPS, so that it'll stick with you on offline maps, if that makes sense. If you don't do that, it won't work. So you can't just get a Wi-Fi. You can't get one. Like I had to get one. I have Verizon. I had to get one from Verizon. You could get one with Wi-Fi and cellular capability without service. And again, the service allows me to do a lot of things when I'm in service with it too. But when I'm out of service, it has the GPS. You could get one without service and it would just be essentially you'd be using it for the GPS. But I've been, and that to me, like, yeah, it does need the GPS. It has to have the GPS. Again, if you're going somewhere that's if you're going to the backcountry, as I would call it, the actual backcountry, you got no service. Like I don't have a bar. It's ... and SOS on the side. Like it's zero service. That's very, very common for me to be in a place where that's the case, which is also why Azoleo exists. Also why Azoleo existed prior to the tablet, quite frankly, because the phone worked and it does work. It's just now that I'm covering some distance when I'm going now. Like I'm not, and it's not all wheeling, but I'm hitting some miles. So I need something bigger that I can blow up and zoom in, like blow up real big and zoom in real small, with my hand to kind of project where I'm headed. Because in these systems of Forest Service roads and trails, it's real easy to take a turn and you missed the turn you wanted to be on. So you kind of got to go slow, having something big. Yeah, you gotta do it. And he said Boondock Haverlock said the best part about the East is their cell coverage is very good. And in the East, quite frankly, I couldn't tell you. The East is one of the places I've not been very often, but there was a lot of offline map. Like I came down off the mountain in Colorado, went somewhere, sat somewhere to eat, get coffee, and I mapped. That's what I did the whole time. Now, again, had I had the iPad then, I could have mapped in my chair at camp. And that to me, the more I think about it, like for the dollar amount, that is something that at this point in my overlanding, I don't know, hobby, that is something that I see a lot of benefit in, like being able to map at camp, or even if I'm in a group, we can all kind of like compare and share. With onX, that's something you can do. Like you could text me, like share a location to me, and I can open it, what you're looking at. Like we can almost be looking at things simultaneously and sharing waypoints and stuff too. So like there's 4 of us around the fire. We've been rerouted because spots were taken. We go find a pavilion or a scenic lookout. We park, we all get out, put these suckers on the hood, we start figuring it out. Like, it's not just for me. When I'm in a group, it's super beneficial because then we're not like, oh, we got to go to service. Oh, we got to go somewhere else to map. You know, it, your offline map's only going to get you so far. So yeah, that's just a piece that I've been putting off and have put off for a long time. And I have a spot for it in my tent even, so I can watch movies and stuff. And that's just something I haven't been exploring much of, like downloading shows or movies or anything. Um, I mean, pretty typically, I will sit and stare at the fire, or if I just do a lot of times I just do my Devos Light, and I'll just sit and read a book. Like, sit and read a book. Sometimes I just sit there, Sometimes I turn it all off and just sit in the dark and listen to the bugs. And I enjoy that. That's why I do this hobby. Like, I don't need to make it so much like I'm at a hotel. But being able to navigate better, um, now that I'm doing more exploring in my truck, it also helps to navigate when it's like a no-go. Like, you want to mark a no-go. Like, that's a no, dog. Like, I like being able to mark that. Like, dotted red line, waypoint, 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 no. Label them all no. Like, not doing that again. Can't do it. Impassable. Bad decision. Too narrow. Too many trees down. You know, Try again in a year, maybe, like stuff like that. You almost could take those notes digitally on the map. So that's worth every penny. Now, I think I've pretty well handled like that's going on. I'm trying to figure out how to get it all in the on the dash, and accessible. So not while I'm going down the highway, I'm screwing with it, but maybe when I'm on a gravel road that I know is a gravel road for a while, and I'm going 20, I can kind of see what I'm doing. But the other thing that I've been frustrated with, is just airing up and airing down. And again, I've been doing this a long time, and there's actually, weirdly enough, there's a lot of innovation that's happened in the airing up and airing down space. Like, there's a lot of companies in it. They've been doing it a long time. I have an Indiflate 4 hose, but like the OG one. Like, it's old. Like, it is old. Like, real old. Um, and I'm struggling with it because the Indiflate, and again, all of you that are listening, you probably been doing this not less time, but you've upgraded this piece if you have. But I've got an ARB compressor mounted, but it's extremely limited by this Indiflate, just the way it works and it's coupled. So I just bought one that is a 2 tire instead of a 4. But the benefit of the 2 versus the 4 is I can unclip and clip the hoses. With the Indiflate, it's all fixed. Like, the whole system's fixed, like crimped. So I got one where I can connect and disconnect essentially the either way, the display and essentially the I keep wanting to say muffler, but that's not the right word. Anyways, but either way, the thing where the junction, I'm gonna call it the air junction, where the air comes out of my air compressor into it, and then it routes the air out the hoses. I I like I think I'm gonna like that better because the one I have now, because it's all fixed and it's got the baffle is what I'd call it in the middle that distributes the air, and then the other hoses come off those hoses. I think it's taking me longer to air up with that system. Does it work? Yes, it works. It definitely works, but I think it's taking me less time, and I'm definitely sick of dealing junction block. Yeah, I'm definitely sick of dealing with all the hoses and like wrapping 2 separate hoses into one reel. I really like that I could just disconnect the hoses, wrap them both up, and then put the junction block in the middle of them, zip up the box, and go. Again, another thing that, like, is it completely necessary? No, but at this point in my time doing this, I think it's going to be better. So it's just something I just upgraded. It's actually not like, it's not expensive. It's not a huge deal, but it is something. I spent $700 on this compressor, and I feel like it's taking it too long to air up my tires. I could do a tire at a time, and it like does some work. But going through the 4, everybody's like, it equalizes it, whatever. But anyways, what I do to air down, I also upgraded this too because I'm just another thing that I got the kit like the ARB one that you screw it in to pull out the valve stem, and it's got like the slide, and then you slide it in, check the pressure, slide it out, release the pressure, and you physically have to do each tire one at a time. I just finally bought the ones that you screw on, and you can unscrew them and screw them to set your pressure, and it's got like a little valve you pull out. Um, I finally got ones that just screw on the tire, so I can just go around, screw them on, and they'll self regulate. When they're done, they're done. And because I was also that's just another piece. Like, what if I lose a valve stem? I do carry extra valve stems, like whatever, but I'm not too hot on removing that valve stem all the time. So these just screw on and they're done. So I finally moved on to those, and things like that. Strawn, a company named Strawn, made those when I started, getting into overlanding, airing up and airing down. But they were like $100, maybe even more than that at that point. I think they still are, and they're a great option. I believe they're fully brass. Like the ones I got are aluminum. And they're off Amazon, and I think they were $30. Well, the options, because the market is so much more competitive, the innovation and the options has increased greatly. And I think that is in some of these little things, I'm finding myself actually upgrading because I've now deemed that, useful, where I was getting by with, a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily made to be filling up larger tires, unique hose sizes and connectors. Like I didn't have a lot, like it wasn't all like universal. Like all my stuff now is 1/4 inch standard air chucks, which could take any 1/4 inch implement, blower, you know, tires, whatever. Like it's more standardized. So I can go to AutoZone, O'Reilly's, a gas station. Like if they have anything 1/4 inch, truck stop, I mean, not gas station, truck stop. If they have anything 1/4 inch, I'm kind of, if I broke something or lost something, I could kind of usually get my stuff back. Um, so I think that's great. Now that I'm not going to be airing down, screwing in each one, pulling the valve stem out, pulling the air out. Like it's set, so I'm not continually putting it back in, checking it, putting it back in, checking it. It's just screw them on. When they're done hissing, you're good. Um, and we're done. I took my tire pressure off the freaking dash, like off of my display, because I'm like, you know what? At the end of the day, if this one's 17 and that one's 20, I just don't care. Like it's not hurting me. Do I think they're probably the most accurate thing in the world? I doubt it, but also that doesn't matter that much. If one's a little lower or higher, if I got 17 in one tire and 21 in another, which I doubt they're off that far, cool. Like that's fine. I'd rather they be lower than higher, but I also don't care. I have a digital checker. I'll probably get them figured out, but I got them on their lowest setting right now. And I think that's the ones I bought. I think that's 15 or 20. And that's just where I ride around all the time anyways. I rarely go below that. If I gotta air down below that, I'm stuck. And if I think I need to air down below that to go somewhere, I don't do that. The only time I'm doing that is if I'm already stuck. So I got the screw-on deflators. Now, again, there's all kinds of cool stuff out now. Like, and I didn't get this, but I got the Thor's Lightning 2-tire. I did not get the Morflate. And I might be wrong in this, but the reason I did that is because the Morflate clips on the valve stem, and Thor's Lightning makes the option to get the ones that have like the little crimp-on clamp. So they'll work for trailers and other things. So it's more multifaceted to me. So it doesn't just clip on the valve stem for only car valve stems. It'll work on my lawnmower, 4-wheeler, trailers. It's more tractors. It's just better for me. And the Morflate has the clip-on one. And if I ever go to beadlocks, that also won't be ideal either, because I'll have essentially the valve stem will be the same length, but it'll be shorter access to get to it. So I got the Thor's Lightning because of that. It seemed to be the larger hose, the more high flow with the ends I'm talking about, like the clip-on ends, which is what my Endoflate also has. And I do use it a lot. So I'm pretty psyched on that. So my friend Johnny is getting the hookup. He's getting the Endoflate. I already told him I upgraded. It's yours. So I'll probably meet up with him at some point in the next week and he's got a 4-tire end deflate. We went out last time. He doesn't have a compressor, and he had to chase me down after I left to air up. So I told him this week I was sending him compressors, but he already addressed that. But compressors is another thing I was just about to get into. Like, there's all these multi-tire air up systems you can get, and they'll work with. Some of them got Schrader valves, some of them got air chucks. They'll work with all these compressors, from Harbor Freight to Napa to Viair to Morflate. The one thing that Morflate's doing that is really, really, really good, and I'm not a tire pressure. Like, I'm like, whatever. If they're off a little, I don't look at it. Like, if my little too low light's not on when I air them up, they're cool. They're cool. Like, I rotate them enough. I look at them enough. My maintenance side of things is definitely on par enough to where it's not something I'm going to ruin my day about. But they make a junction block where you can set a pressure. So, like, for me, I have an ARB, so that'd be good. But there's another situation where that's useless too, and that's their compressor, but it's not hard mounted. So, but Morflate makes a valve block now where you could still stick the hoses in and take them out, just like the one I got, but you could set the pressure. So my compressor has an auto shut off, so it'll hit the pressure on the tires and it'll shut it off itself. So you'll know it's aired up. I do have to monitor mine, even with the new one I got, to make sure it's at the right pressure to shut it off. But that junction block is really cool. And then Morflate's compressor, if you just get the compressor, you can do the same thing with the compressor. You can set the compressor to a set PSI and it'll shut off too. So I got to pick and choose. I can't have all the freaking amazing gadgets, I'd love to. If Morflate sent me one of those junction blocks, I mean, that'd be sweet. The compressors doesn't make sense to me. I have an ARB, and again, like, that's tried and true from everybody I've ever went with that's serious has an ARB twin, like, period. Tankless. If you have a tanked one, you end up with water in them, and there's no valve to blow them off. So they get water in them pretty bad. So I don't run a tank. I have an ARB twin, and that's what I have. Again, it's one of those things, kind of like, that's just the standard. Like, you just got to have the ARB twin, period. It's like with fridges, I believe you have to have a Dometic. Like, I love all these other brands, and I do, but there's just some things where the brand does matter. Like, period. Like, my ARB twin, 100% feel like ARB is the way to go. Viair has good options. All these places have good options, but their whole entire marketing plan is to just be cheaper. Well, in order to be cheaper, you can't be the cheapest and the bestest all the time. So, like my deck system, I tried cheaper stuff. Like, there's just certain things to me that are like, okay, I've tried other stuff and some things are just worth the money. ARB compressor, 100% is one of them. Midland radio, 100% one of them. Not a handheld, in the car. Midland radio, must have, with a ghost antenna or the longer flipped antenna, must have. Those are all things that I just feel like you got to get the good stuff. Deck system, fridge, like, just brand stuff. I want the brand name stuff. And I've seen Goose Gear stuff. It's amazing. Like, oh, it's so expensive. But, like, if you go look at it, it's not like you're looking at something that's overpriced and junk. Like, it's overpriced and overbuilt. Like, it's super good. And all these fridge companies, again, I have a Dometic, a big Dometic. It's a fridge freezer. And I looked at other fridge brands, but at the end of the day, I just am not going to have warranty issues with Dometic. Like, I might have problems with the fridge. I'm using it. Malfunctions happen, but Dometic's going to take care of me, quite frankly. And they have, like, certified guys. Like, I could take it to an RV center and they can either fix it, diagnose it, or replace it. And that's not necessarily ideal, but, like, you're not going to do that with these other brands. Now, I do have a lot of friends. Fridges are a specific one. I'm not just going to be like, don't get X brand. I have a lot of friends that are sponsored by fridge brands. A lot of friends are sponsored by fridge brands, different ones. I'm not naming any names on this podcast. I have a Dometic, and I, Charlie, and Outskirts Overland thinks that is the best fridge. That's what I think. If you value my opinion, that is my opinion. Dometic, period. You know, Midland. There's other radio brands, Midland, period. Hard mounted, period. You know, I have Baja Designs lights. I live close to Diode Dynamics. I love my Baja Designs lights. I think they are beyond amazing. Not even just brightness and clarity, but like they've been underwater a billion times and they're not fogging. So, anyways, must have. Either way, so I've upgraded some of my air up and air down equipment. Just, I'm not getting lazy, but I'm just getting tired of like making some of my older stuff work. Like I'm just getting tired of like, I'm making it work, and it's working, but it's just not, it's taken away from the experience a little bit. So, and as prices come down, iPads aren't $1,000. I think my iPad was, I don't know, $400, and I got it at Verizon. So of course I didn't pay $400 for it. I paid $0 for it, and I'll pay, whatever, $10 a month or whatever. But, but I mean, even so, it's still $400 versus what they were a long time ago. And that's the same thing I did with the deflators and the hoses. Like, it's just time to upgrade. That's the industry. I feel like the industry with those things, due to competition, is going to new heights. You're seeing lots of new stuff because it is competitive and it's super nice. So, anyways, I went on way more than I thought I was going to go on this week. So, I'm going to probably start wrapping it up. But yeah, just going over my woes with some of my equipment, figuring my equipment out, how I managed my week. Not really something I was going to talk about, but it kind of just led into that. And I'm going this weekend. So I'm going to get literally right off this and go start taking my dash apart and, figuring that out. However, probably ending up at Walmart late tonight, or if it's early enough, Ace Hardware, so I can get screws and stuff. So yeah, anyways, I really appreciate you guys. Boondock Haverlock, I appreciate you. Obviously we talk quite a bit. I was real happy to see your Instagram post. I do follow you guys. Like everybody that watch, like if I know you watch this, I follow you. And look at it. Like I'm not like clout chasing. Like I want to see what you're doing too. But anyways, Boondock Haverlock, I appreciate you because you actually have a Tacoma and you took some of my advice, and I think that's going to pay off pretty solidly for you in your future endeavors. So I appreciate you, and that I'm truly humbled that you value my advice enough. So thank you for that. But anyways, guys, I will talk to you next week. It'll be Wednesday. Have a happy 4th. Have a safe 4th. Make sure that if you're partaking in any adult beverages, you get a ride. This is a vehicle-based hobby, and it would really suck if you couldn't drive your vehicle anymore. Make sure you're doing things safe and responsibly. Try not, you need your eyes and you need your driver's license, okay? So make sure you're being smart. Enjoy it, though, and get out if you can, and I will talk to you guys next week.